Yes, can you see me?
See you. We can hear you. Oh, all good.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. I keep wondering why you keep coming back, but hey, if you're still here, uh, is there anybody new? No?
Anybody want to raise their hands and say if they're new?
There's someone scuba diving. It's good. All right. So if you're not, is everyone somewhat familiar with the Course in Miracles? Yes. I'm going to read something from the Course. This version of it. I don't know if you can see it. It looks like, yeah, here you go. Can't see it, eh? Wow, there you go. This is I haven't read all this, but this is my favorite piece. So he starts out with, is everybody there? Yeah, all right. He, meaning it's, whoever, the mind of Christ, whatever, it doesn't matter, but the first sentence he's referring to something they talked about previously in the book. So he goes, "Yet we have heard a very similar description earlier, but it was not of you." Yeah. So to me, obviously, usually if you've been moved by in a certain way and been framed by entertaining the message in a certain way, you like other statements that support that framing. So, I mean, that's what you usually find. So this, in a way, he's talking about a description in the book, but it was not of you. So that's the whole point. What we're not can be described, yes? What we are can't be described. So when there's a description of what we are, that is that which is being described is indescribable. So let's not waste any time like describing what it's like to be, oneness or anything like that. Let's just look at what you can hear a description of, which is the activities that are going on that imply us as something we're not, basically. And that would be fine if it was way down the road, but it's so quick, it's taken to be us. So it sort of replaces our starting point. And once it replaces the starting point and puts its own starting point up, basically the rest of the race is determined by the false starting point. So he goes, "Yet we have heard a very similar description earlier, but it was not of you. But still, this strange idea, which it does accurately describe, you think is you." This is the dilemma, yes? So you can describe, because there's the basis of consciousness in contact, yes? So we can describe that, and how we can describe it is the gates that the consciousness moves through, which is seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. And Buddhism, they would have the noticing of thoughts or mental objects, would be the sixth sense. So there's, there's five senses, so that can be noticed, yes? Awakeness, blah, blah, blah. Now, those five senses, something happens and they're not noticed or seen from the position they hold. Something comes after the conscious contact, an activity of the mental state, and implies that the consciousness, the seeing, the hearing, the feeling, the tasting, and touching. So let's say it's the hand of consciousness, and those are the five fingers: seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. That hand of consciousness, that where the body that has that hand of consciousness. Yeah? So now the emphasis goes on the seer and the seen, but there's a sense of lack of attention on the seeing. The same thing with hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. So he goes, "But still this strange idea, which it does accurately describe, you think is you." What is that idea? the idea that you're a long-lasting, independent, separate entity, a thing, yeah? I would say that would fall into one of the strange aspects of the strange idea. Reason would tell you, you can insert the word wisdom if you don't like reason. Reason would tell you that the world you see through eyes that are not yours must make no sense to you. So basically, this world is, one way, is being interpreted by vision, and he's basically saying in this Course in Miracles that the eyes of the body are not ours, yes? So how can they make sense to us? So we're not of the body, yes? And we're not of the eyes, and we're not of the ears, we're not of the sensations and the touch. Basically, that's what's being implied. And how it's going to be reinforced is by describing what we're not. So he goes, to whom would seeing such as this, let's call it self-centeredness, to whom would seeing such as this send back its messages? Surely not you. So basically, the system is interpreting this event and then referring it back to the system. Yes? So the system is interpreting this event and it's referring it back to the system. So it's like a loop. Yeah. So surely not you, whose sight is wholly independent of the eyes that look upon the world. So he's talking about the sight of awareness, yes? So the awareness is a form of sight that's independent of the eyes that look upon this world. Yeah? So that which is seeing is not the vision of seeing. Yeah? That which is seeing is not the eyes. That which is hearing is not the ears. If this is not your vision, well, yeah, if this is not your vision, what can it show to you? It can show to you that it's not your vision. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of the message. It can show by describing what we feel we are and seeing that it may not be us. That's what happens. The failed system shows us it's failed. Yes? That's the success of a failed system if something other than the system is entertaining it. And the success of a failed system to us is that we see it as failed. Yeah? So maybe we lose interest in it and we're open to another possibility. Not for it or through it, but from it. Yeah? Yeah. So if this is not your vision, what can it show to you? The brain cannot. This is so beautiful. I mean, I don't know how you could turn this into some kind of... I don't know how else you can interpret this. The brain interprets what your vision sees. Yeah? Not what's seeing, but what your vision sees. Yeah? Your vision sees things, and the brain is interpreting these things to reinforce the idea you're a thing. Yes? So you're of this world. You're not only in it, you're of it. Yes? If in this closed loop, you're in this world and you're of this world. Where Jesus would say, all right, we'll give you this. You're in this world, but you're not of this world. But with this system, you're in it and you're of it. Yeah? So it says, the brain interprets to the body of which it is a part. This is, you could skip so much stuff if you could just hear this. The brain interprets to the body of which it is a part. So the brain is piecing this whole thing together, selectively accepting some shit, other shit no, selecting the shit that supports a narrative. So the narrative is assumed first, and then it looks for evidence to support the narrative. Yeah? The evidence doesn't support the narrative. The narrative is entertained, and then it looks to support the narrative. But if you really see it, the evidence doesn't support the narrative. Yeah? So it says, all you need to hear that the brain interprets to the body of which it is a part. Yeah? So the brain does not see you as spirit. Yeah? It's never going to see you as spirit. It can see you as spiritual, framed as a body, but it can't see you as spirit because its seeing is determined and based on the body. Yeah? That's the narrative. And then it selects and interprets everything to fit that narrative. So the possibility, maybe there's a sort of a learned yearning, you can't put your finger on it, and that's what, when it's misinterpreted, turns into spirituality. Now you start looking for what you are with what you are. So he goes, the brain interprets to the body of which it is a part. That's sort of like when Huang Po says, whatever can be perceived can't be perceiving. That's one of those fucking machete swoops. Yeah, the brain interprets to the body of which it is a part. Period, exclamation, end of story. It may do it zillions of ways, but that's basically what it's doing. Yeah? It could be your celestial body, it could be your spirit body, it could be your fucking animal totem body, but basically it's interpreting to a body. Yeah. So the brain interprets to the body of which it is a part. But what it says you cannot understand. Yeah? Because some people would say the language of the heart, whatever, yes? I don't like those terminologies, but they're basically implying there's another language that you could be hearing and maybe using, yeah? That's not of the brain, yeah? So they're implying something. Yeah, there's a possibility of hearing, maybe out of silence and before thought, shit that really makes sense to you and to what you are, and it shows that it's reliable because it works. You travel lighter, yeah? It doesn't need millions of words because what happens is, you ever see like Budweiser beer, it sucks, right? So what they do is they spend tons of money on advertising and they make new cans or they put three openings on it or whatever just to disguise that the product sucks, yeah? So they got to advertise a huge amount because the product sucks. The same way, yeah? That which the interpretation of the brain to the body doesn't make fucking sense to us. Yeah? It didn't make sense when we were a kid, and hopefully it doesn't make sense to us now. So it spends a lot of money on advertising. It doesn't change the product, it just changes the packaging or it affiliates it with beautiful women somehow to try to sort of blind you to the fact that it sucks. Yeah, basically. So the brain interprets to the body of which it is a part. But what it says you and I cannot understand. Yet you have listened to it. See? Now why would we be listening to something we don't even fucking understand? Because really, it's presented as us, yeah? And for some reason, maybe the I am, if it's captured by the mental state, turns into interest and attention, and it sort of goes towards whatever is implying us, the made up us, the mistaken us, yeah? I don't know, something. So there's an attraction, or in Buddhism they call it the cherishing of self. There's an attraction with anything that refers to or implies or insinuates us, yeah? It's just there. And so, and the mental state uses that because it makes a different you and me, yeah? Makes it. It doesn't become a different you and me, but it makes one up, in a sense. So, yet you have listened to it, and long and hard you try to understand its messages. You have not realized, some of us have right now, I hope. You have not realized it is impossible to understand what fails entirely to reach you. Yeah? That's why through this through this prism, through this conduit, why is a huge effect, yeah? Why and but, B-U-T, a big word, and why. Why, yeah? You have not realized it is impossible to understand what fails entirely to reach you. You have received no messages at all, you understand. For you have listened to what can never communicate at all. It narrates, definitely. It judges, it forecasts, but it doesn't communicate. Yeah? That's why it's so fucking difficult to contact people through language. Yeah? Because it isn't the language of the heart, it's the language of the fucking brain. Yeah? And because there's such an extreme self-centeredness that's based on you and I being special from each other, having private thoughts, private feelings, and actions that no one else has done, language doesn't work that well. Yeah? It just doesn't. You're with someone for 12 years and they still don't know you're joking when you're joking. It makes you feel a little fucking what? How can this be? Yeah, because there's such a deterrence to understanding, because this whole idea of two separate, long-lasting, independent, distinctly unique things are trying to communicate. So, you have received no messages at all. Okay, so think then what happens. Think then what happens. You don't know what the fuck's going on. Yeah? Think then what happens. Denying what you are. Now this is the activity of the mental state. This isn't like a past tense event or a future event. It's now. Yeah? This is what the mental state is doing. The mental state is denying what you are and firm in faith that you are something else. Yeah? This something else that you have made to be yourself. Do you get it? This something else that you have made to be yourself, yeah, becomes your sight. So now you're dependent on self-centeredness to lead you in the way. Yeah? And it's a failed system. So it goes, again, denying what you are. No one thinks they're denying what they are. It's happening unbeknownst to us. It sounds like we're affirming what we are all day by thinking about it, but we're not that object that's being thought about. So it's actually a denial of what we are, the constant obsession with what we are, as really what we're not, yeah? So it looks to us, I am just completely affirming myself all fucking day, affirming that I suck or that I'm great or this and that. But in fact, no, you're affirming what you're not all day. Yeah? That's a denial of what you are. So denying what we are, what you are, and firm in faith, and that's the power. Yeah? The faith is what makes things that are impossible seem to be so. It's faith, and nothing else than faith. Firm in faith that you are something else. This something else that you have made to be yourself becomes your sight. Yet it must be the something else that sees and as not you. Yes? It must be the something else that claims to be the seer as not you. You're not that. Yeah? All right, so here. It must be that something else that sees and as not you explains its sight to you. Isn't that the thing? I swear, doesn't it feel like there's a 24/7 fucking marathon about you all day? It's like one of those Jerry Lewis telethons. They're on the phone all day, asking for fucking some money for some fucking thing you have no idea about. So, your vision, see, this is beautiful. Not the sight, but your vision would, of course, render this quite unnecessary. If you can just get a sense of what you're not, instead of being the seer, it will be the aware vision. Yeah? Yes? You're not going to get out of self as self. Now, the dilemma with that is the secondary self that's in the process of getting out of the recognizable self is called Paul. So it doesn't believe the equation. It understands it. It goes, oh yeah, self can't get out of self, but I beg to differ, Paul can get out of self. Not knowing that Paul is AKA self. You see? So Paul gets an understanding of, let's say, the objectified self and goes, oh, now I've realized the problem and I'm going to escape that as Paul, but you're the recognizable fucking self in an unrecognizable condition. Yes? You're not recognizing it yet. Just at one point, you didn't even recognize the first part. Now you're not recognizing the one that comes after the first part. When the first is finally revealed, it pops up as the one who saw it. Yeah? We've explained this. This is how you recognize it. It's not good enough to see the objectified self because it's self thinking it saw the objectified self. I beg to differ. It was Kevin or Paul. No. That's the formulation of what they're speaking of here. So, your vision would, of course, render this quite unnecessary. Yet, if your eyes are closed, yeah, and you have called upon this thing to lead you, asking it to explain to you the world it sees, not you, it sees, you have no reason not to listen nor to suspect that which it tells us is not true. Well, now you do have a reason to be suspicious, yes? So this doesn't apply to any of us in this room. Everyone here has been served a spiritual subpoena. You can't get out of this court date. Like Ramana says, your head's in the tiger's mouth. It's a done deal. Oh, you can't pull back out. It's fucking finished. Why aren't we acting like that? Again, I ripped this one time, so I can't see it. So your vision would, of course, render this quite unnecessary. See, our vision renders these talks quite unnecessary. Yeah? But the problem is, the vision has been co-opted and seemingly replaced by the one who's the seer. Yeah? So we have to go talk about how the seer arrives at being the seer, because it's not natural. They're seeing. The seeing isn't proclaiming there's a seer. The seeing is just seeing, yeah? What the hell is claiming the seeing to imply the seer? The seeing ain't. The seeing doesn't happen and then waits for a few seconds for the seer and seen to show up, does it? It arrives and then, oh, well, and then, but, no. Yeah, that's added on to. So here, your vision, my vision, our vision, would of course render this quite unnecessary. Yet, but if your eyes are closed and you have called upon this thing to tell you what's going on, for a long time, did you have a suspicion? When I was in those retreats in Thailand, sitting 13 hours a day, I didn't have a suspicion of who was the sitter and doing all the meditation. Not once. Yeah? I was having mandalas move and fucking the wheel of life and everything like this, but nothing crossed over to that. Nothing. Yeah? I was totally out to lunch. So if you believe something's going to bring you to that point, it may not, yeah? But here you are, we've arrived at it, yeah? And when on arriving, you realize on having never left. Now you have the eyes to see. See, once you give what's not real a reality, it has you. Yeah? You have to see it as not you. At least. So that its robbery will at least you'll stop it at the fucking gate, you know? When it enters your little world and when you go, hey, who are you? And it says me, and then you let it right in. No, maybe you'll ask for its papers, yeah? And then it'll be in shock, and that pause shows its whole facade is empty. Yeah. So, yeah. And not once did he really describe what we are. Not once. All he was doing, or whatever was doing it, was constantly bringing an example of the activity of what we're not to our eyes, yeah? To the vision. Not to the seer, but to the vision, to the awareness, yes? It's such a beautiful wallop. I mean, if this was a boxing ring, you would have been knocked out, yeah? I mean, the guy wouldn't have even, he would have just stood over you and known you were knocked out. It wouldn't be like he'd went to his corner. You'd be out. They'd be pulling you, you know, with a stretcher. So, there you go.
Thank you. Anybody want to raise their hand? Anybody there? Mary has her hand up.
Mary.
Hi, Paul.
Hey, Mary.
I'm coming into the ring with you.
What?
I know you love these questions, man. So, Paul, so I guess I just wonder why I don't get knocked out, right? Like,
Because you've been knocked out already.
but that's not okay, yeah. But
Yeah.
the experience of the false self or whatever, or the self is still.
So what? It's diminished, honey. So what?
Yeah. I hear you.
Experience, how long can an experience last? At most 80 years, 90 years. Yeah?
Yeah, I get what you're saying about not taking it seriously, and I so appreciate that. It's been wonderful that you've helped me so much. And I know you say, why do we keep showing up? Like, I keep showing up because I'm dead. Like, there's just this terror or something, you know, and a block, I don't know, whatever, and trying not to, you know, and getting that it's
A
not.
good sign, honey.
Huh?
That's a good sign.
Yeah. So, Paul, do you think all those years of sitting your butt on the pillows, which I'm crappy at, like get so distracted and frustrated and pissy or whatever, like, do you think there was any, did that prepare you in any way, or do we, you know, is there any
Didn't
value
prepare,
of that?
no.
No.
No. In one way, in a story, it looks like it has something to do with it. But in actuality, it has nothing to do with it. Yeah?
Mm.
What happens here is caught by the Course called you and I are the dreaming of the dreaming. And we're going to dream ourselves out of the dreaming. And as we do, the dream will get happier. So basically, on one level, from the speed of the tortoise-like action figure, then the things that happen in the life of the action figure are being used to lead the action figure out of the dreaming. So not the action figure, but that which is assuming to be the action figure out of the dreaming. So it has incredibly value there. But that's not put together by the effort or the doing. It's how it's being choreographed by that mind. Yeah.
But
So the
by the
mind
real,
could have the mind could have used reading a telephone book to do the same thing if you wanted to.
yeah, you mean the true mind, like the.
Yes, the true mind.
So it's choreographing it all. Just chill. Just chill.
That's one way. Yes, you can look at it that way. See, basically, that's the little bit of. I mean, we try not to have any sugar in this formula, but that's a little bit of sugar called compassion in it that you can't lose here. Yes? Either what's happening to you is being put to good use to propel you out of the dreaming of this dream, or you are just chilled out and you're awake to being awake, and more of there's an acceptance of the dreaming, and that's a nice little story about it, but that's unnecessary. Yeah, you see?
Mm. Do you ever, would you ever conceive of it as a kind of like, and again, I know what you're talking, like indescribable, but and I hate to even use this word, but like a love, like a, not the love of that corny, crappy thing, but
I
like
don't know. You
something,
can call it. You can try to. It's more an attempt to communicate than the word you use. Yeah. So yeah, love is a good one. Yeah, I like uh, other ones, but yeah, love has a lot of meaning.
yeah,
It's very
I know,
explosive, especially in spirituality.
yeah, yeah,
So I don't like using the word love much.
yeah. But I just
And
want
the
to
thing
thank you
is,
so, I just,
what I like is if you entertain these ideas and you're unbiased, which is a tough one to ask, and you start begrudgingly acknowledge through your observation that things are getting different and you're traveling lighter, what more do you freaking want? Yeah. Once it's become clear that things are very unclear and a lot of shit that was based on you not knowing stuff, now you start having an understanding of what's going on, and hopefully that's you realize the unimportance of Mary, and then you become more reliant on what's expressing, and having the observation of that leading you to a sense of honor and gratitude as an action figure.
mm-hmm,
I mean,
mm-hmm,
and then basically everything else is not premised on you, it's premised on that. Yeah.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh, if it wants you to have 800 lightning bolts, it will. If it doesn't want you to have any, you won't. It doesn't. Does it change the fact that you're awake? No, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
You are of that. Yeah. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter if it's proven or not to you. The you that you're not.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So there's that humility, yeah? Is that
Well,
like
of course it's a melody. It's built in because you realize uh, you had nothing to do with most of the shit that's happening.
mm,
Yeah, and that's very relieving because this undue responsibility you've been saddled with has sort of, you ever see old horses where their backs are so, your back is so bowed from fucking carrying this idea that you're the center of the universe or that you have to purify and fucking turn into light and
mhm,
only fly in one direction. You know, I mean, it's way too much.
mm,
At best, you're like a utilitarian event, like a Toyota. You're not a chariot of the gods, yeah? And you know what I'm thankful for the Toyota? Not that it looks like a fucking Rolls Royce, because it doesn't. Or sounds like a Lamborghini, because it doesn't. It's reliability. That's what I love. Yeah?
mm,
Not much maintenance. It goes where you're going. Yeah, doesn't attract too much attention. Like Prius, I have a used Prius now. I can't get stopped by a cop. They think every person in a Prius is fucking like either neutered or something. I mean, I'm making maneuvers, but I have total assurance they're never going to pull me over. Maybe they will tomorrow now. But the Prius is a great disguise. They think I'm like 80 years old and I eat a lot of kale and I read, fucking whatever.
mhm.
Yeah. So this is, Mary, if you're uncomfortable enough, fucking acquire from some skillful means because you're not going to squeeze what you're not into what you are. You're not. So you might as well fucking give it up and just, you know, let's say turn down the volume of all the screamings of what you're not. You must have had to find a lot of skillful means in this life. Do not use non-duality as a replacement
Yeah.
because this this is like putting there's the action figure, and it has a rash. This is like putting nothing on it, non-duality. Now, that's an incredible message to that which is not of the body. But to the body, it's not going to fucking work. The body needs some psoriasis, anti-psoriasis ointment, yeah? So freaking take a walk, help someone else, do some service. Tons of ways to get that attention and interest off of Mary and Mary's destiny and Mary's inability to fulfill her destiny. Yeah, it's all obsession with self, no matter how it's dressed up. Yeah,
Yeah. I hear you.
this is all about a loss of interest. And if you feel that there's not a loss of interest, then fucking treat the. It's just a temporary sore. SORE. Yeah, you're not. You're not going to. No matter how much you feel like you're not, think like you're not, act like you're not. It doesn't change what you are. It doesn't. It doesn't. You can't. It's impossible. So go. It's like if you look at if you're tugging, here's the tug of war. You're on both sides. Yeah. If you let go of both, it would be just a fucking rope. Yeah. Yeah. But hey, if too much is on your head and you're wondering if I did this, it will lead me to become more available to this power. Hey, listen, you are the power dreaming itself out of the dreaming. So, like I used to tell people, if you really believe you need to do something, you better do it. I don't feel a need to do anything. Yeah? So if I do shit, it would be a disservice to the message. But if you're fucked up or whatever, do something. You get out of it. Yeah. And if you need it, if you set up that you have to have meditation and maybe at least once every few weeks enter the realm of no thought, yeah, as a requirement to being fucking sublimely okay, then you better do it. Until you realize you wrote up the whole fucking rules and regulations and the requirements, and you laid the obstacle courses, and you're the director of the whole running. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'd
No
rather not
problem
do
with
it.
that.
So that's a relief.
Yes. So do what you feel you need to do. If I felt I needed to do something, I would probably do it.
It's
But
just
I
so
have seen in my own experience, you know, the way is the no way, so to speak. That's all. And so, but I don't know where people are at. Yeah, if they're really fucked, then do something to get temporarily unfucked. But I'm not really fucked, so I don't have that drive.
yeah,
Even if I'm fucked, I don't have that much interest in it.
yeah.
And it passes away before I would sign up for the retreat, it changes. And then I got to call up and cancel, and hopefully they give me my $2,000 back. Yeah. So I don't rush to, this is the end of the world, because it usually isn't.
Thank you, man. You've helped me so much. I'm just so grateful.
Oh, good. You help all of us, honey, and just stay with us, yeah?
I
It's not a
will.
bad way to spend a Wednesday night.
It's awesome. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. James has got James, a.k.a. Lebowski. Yes? Mike, can you get James on?
James, did you fall asleep?
Sorry, I'm using I'm using my iPad tonight, so I'm in the bed that's normally in the background when I'm on this thing. But can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just real excited because I like hearing you reference A Course in Miracles, because as much as I've been going to to 12-step meetings, you kind of created a shift for me in seeing that deal. And I so identify with your story in so many ways. I'm just glad I was broke and couldn't afford to go to a bunch of retreats.
Yeah.
Or I'd have spent a bunch of money and gone to a bunch of them. But I made some classic errors, and one of them was in AA, I saw a lot of people that were happy, and a lot of the people that were happy in the AA group I went to were into the Course in Miracles. So
Mm.
when I became unhappy and wanted to become happy, I got the Course in Miracles and tried to apply that to the action figure's unhappiness. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
was doing that level confusion thing. But somehow through life going on, I stuck with the course through times where I was reading it and wasn't interpreting it the same way. So I'm on lesson 92, and in this sort of
You're almost 92.
quest. Well, I just go through it over and over now.
I thought you said your age was 92. I thought we were
Oh
talking
no,
to the
no,
original
no, no.
Gandalf. The
My
original
daughter.
Gandalf is here tonight.
Yes. Well, see, this is the thing, man. This Zoom thing, I've gotten involved with a bunch of people on the other side of the pond,
Yeah,
and they
don't do
see me
that.
as Lebowski.
They're very
So
dangerous.
I know, I know, I know some guys in Belfast right now. So and anyway, they know where I live. It's dangerous, but they all see me as Lebowski. Over here is Gandalf. So it's but I'm just excited to hear you reference the course. I love hearing you talk about the course, and it helps me. I've gone from a place where this actually invoked a lot of fear in me when I started reading it, because I didn't really understand. I was doing what it was telling me not to do. I was applying something at the level of the mind to the body
Yeah,
thing, and
yeah.
so over a long period of time, here I am talking to you fine folks, and I'll shut up, but I really love it. And now I know exactly where you're always talking about. I've got it, Mike.
Oh,
Um,
good. Yeah.
yeah, I got it bookmarked. Not that it's going to change it, but who knows? The words are always changing in this thing.
Yes, I like. Yeah, that was. Yeah,
But I happen to be on lesson 92. I've got it. It's you can get it online now. So I read it every day online, where most people read their
yeah.
wisdom reading. So anyway, I'll talk to you.
I want to share. Yeah, I want to share something about in manifestation. Now, my feeling, I feel dreaming is manifesting. Yeah, that's what dreaming is manifesting, and all there is mind, big M mind. So mind is dreaming. So mind can see this place in a lot of different ways. It can grow from one vision to another vision, and yet some of the categories are it's going to use the dreaming to dream itself out of the dream. Yes? And I would feel like I felt quite an affinity to that statement because that way everything that ever happened seemingly with me and to me has been put to good use to promote something. Not that the things did it; they were used to express something happening. Yes, they weren't the cause of the something happening. They were used by the only cause. Yes, to produce an effect. Yes, so and it doesn't have to do. If it goes one way, it can go another way completely. It doesn't have a like a well-worn trail. So that's how I feel about what's going on here. And so when I'm speaking about the dreaming and stuff, and I speak about you and I are the dreaming of the dream, and we're going to dream ourselves out of it, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to imply that. And the you and I is what we are, not the you and I as Paul and Mary, but the you and I as the only I, so to speak, yeah, is going to dream itself out of here through Paul and Mary, yeah, yeah. Paul and Mary won't be causing any of it, but Paul and Mary will be a form of expression of that theme. Yes? And then when you'll look back in your life, you'll see, like in AA, we have a word called the higher power. Yeah. Basically, some people don't like the word God. So there's the higher power. And in the Course in Miracles, in a way, the higher power of recovery is the Holy Spirit in the Course in Miracles, in a way, yeah? And so in the Holy Spirit, there's they have a little idea of the Trinity in the Course, and forgive me if I'm wrong, because everything I ever read, I interpret it from my own sense, you know? So they have a trinity of the God, the all there is, da da da, and then there's the Christ mind, and then the intermediary here in the dreaming for the Christ mind and God is the Holy Spirit. So the Holy Spirit, if called upon or surrendered to, or just that unsuspecting inner resource becomes suspected, yeah, this higher power, this Holy Spirit, will take in the same information the brain is, yeah? And when the brain takes all the information is, it interprets to the body. The Holy Spirit interprets it to something else, yeah? The higher power interprets it to something else. It's the same data, yeah, that the brain's sucking in, yeah? And actually the brain leaves a lot out. This sucks in, I would say, more data, but takes the exact same information the brain does, but gives you a completely different direction or take from the same information, yeah? So this is the idea. If you look at this life from, let's say, the brain's point of view, you know, any fear of being hurt in the future provoked by mental anxiety, you want to avoid that and fucking stay away from it at all costs because it'll be the death of you, yeah? So the head is giving you the meaning of the dreaming, and you're dreaming yourself up the ass of self more in the dreaming. You're not in the process of dreaming yourself out. You're constantly in the reinforcing of dreaming yourself in, so to speak, yeah? And the more you listen to that shit, the more, you know. So then if you're pulled out of the ass just an inch, you think it's fucking awesome. But I mean, seriously. So the Holy Spirit is taking the same information, but collates it differently. And now you're a vehicle of looking at what's happened as a way of dreaming oneself out of the dreaming, yeah? What an awesome way to interpret it. And you can't come up with that. Something does it for us.
No, I made it into fear, and it turned it into something else. You know, I was like, so once again, 180 degrees on it. You know, when I started, and
Well, fear is faith.
but I love hearing you. It's like that was jazz, man. It really was.
Well, see, so yeah, so this thing is, if you want it married, that's a good one to use, yeah?
See,
I
my
mean,
head says I'm
maybe have a
this.
suspicion of what your eyes are telling you. Maybe, just maybe. And have a little healthy suspicion of what the head is informing you of. Because it's predicated on false fucking evidence. And it's not presenting false evidence, it's talking to false evidence. And you're believing it to be true or false is reinforcing the falseness. Yeah? Our reaction to thoughts and everything is reinforcing the thinker. It doesn't matter what thought it is. It's being used to reinforce the thinker. See? It's not, oh, I'm getting fooled by false evidence. You're already seeing everything from false evidence. Yeah? It's just piling on. It's not, yes? You need to see what you're not. Yeah? Because you're not going to train that to sift through evidence. It's already fucking, it's already compromised. It's already made up. It's not going to be your friend. It's too late. Yeah? The infection has gone too far. You can't, oh, let me cut out the good parts. No. You just have to see what you're not. And then you'll
Well,
take what is from a different source than self-centeredness. Yeah? And then a lot of the questions and the confusions that we have will be cleared up, not based on hearing the answer, but by just seeing it from a different position. Yeah?
yeah, I
It's
just
the
love hearing it
position
brought
that's asking
together.
for fucking answers. The position is off, and to me, personally.
Well, I just like hearing you bring it together like that. Uh, I just do, and it it's the kind of thing where, in the beginning it says if you understand these two sentences, you can just throw the book away,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
it's the same thing like you saying, just check out what you're not, and just keep being aware of that,
Yeah, let
and
me
don't
say
try to
something
name this
on,
other
on,
thing.
on Tuesday in the recovery thing. You see, so in recovery, you're trying to get something across. So in recovery, there's an assuming that a false position is a position, that you got to give it a little, yeah? And so now you're going to try to say there's a different position. The false position would be trusting something finite, and the true position is trusting something infinite. There's no position, really, ultimately. You are infinite, yeah? It has nothing to do with trust. Here in the dreaming, trusting what you already are will prove valuable, but it doesn't make what you already are. Yeah?
Yeah,
You are the infinite. Yes, you are. I hate to break the news, but
yeah,
we
yeah,
are.
yeah, yeah.
So,
No, it's constantly telling me, look, this is what you are. This is what you think you are. This is what you are. This is what you
yeah,
think
so
you are.
let's
This
say
is what you are.
in recovery, you're going to use duality to get to a point. In non-duality, you negate the dualities. So the presentation of non-duality is different than the presentation of recovery with the same spirit. Yeah?
Yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
I want to shut up and
Someone in
give some more
addiction
because I was
can't
feeling it.
someone in addiction can't go there is no world. It's impossible. So first you've got to say, okay, there's one position, there's a possibility of another position, but in fact, there's no position. None of this is real to begin with, in a sense. But this is on Wednesday night. You can speak from there. Yeah?
Yeah, that's why I'm excited to be awake at this hour and actually talking to you about this stuff. It really where I'm at now is trying to just not name that thing. And like I said, like my friend Nick says, just starve the questioner. So I shouldn't be wasting any more of the time. But
Well, no, questions are fine. We
I'm
wouldn't
thinking,
have Zoom without a question.
okay,
Yeah?
well then, there's the course is saying, look, the eyes don't see. You see with vision. And vision comes from light. And I just, this. See, the action figure wants to turn it into a Star Wars movie, and the fact is, I'm sitting here being it right now.
Yes. Oh.
So what the hell? Like just in the short time we're talking, the action figure wants to turn it into a light
Well,
show.
and then you don't have to take it seriously.
Yeah. No, it's
That's
just nice
smart.
to watch it and see it, and I don't know. I mean, I've gotten into this World Zoom thing, um, and some of it's recovery and some of it's not, but it's all. I hate to use that language of the heart, but there's something that excites me as much as dope used to.
Well, good to see you, James.
Yeah. So, all right, let me mute
Kaiser.
myself.
Kaiser Sose. Kaiser is up, Mike, I think.
I am. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I only raised my hand because no one else had a question, so I figured I'd propel this for just a quick.
Yes, I love questions. I'm
Okay.
just
I can't give you a specific question, man. I'm really, really sorry about that. I usually like to prepare those things, but this particular one is: do you have any advice? I know you don't give advice, but do you have any something that a person could use, because it seems like the things that are important to me, the Kaiser, his life is being torn apart, and this is like a it's an opportune time, and I
Yeah.
want to cling
Who
to
is
my
it?
things.
Whose
Go ahead.
life is being torn apart? Ask that.
Okay.
Yeah, use the verb that is placed that seems to be placed after Kaiser. Ask that Kaiser, who is it? Who is it whose life is being torn apart?
Okay. Thanks.
You know? I mean, and then if it brings an answer, ask who is that? Yeah, just put it on the hot seat for a second or two.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. See what
Okay.
happens, see what happens is it's just a change of direction. So if I had a different job, let's say I was a therapist, and someone came in and they say, well, I'm really worried about next week. And then we try to break down, well, why are you worried about next week and this and that? Yes, but that's not the seed assignment. So if I don't care about the worrying about next week or not worrying about next week, I care who is it that's worrying about next week. I care about the claiming of worrying about next week to imply something. Yeah? You see? There's worrying about next week. I'm not disputing that. I don't care. But it's implying that there's Kaiser that's worrying about next week. Yeah? And I would like to sort of, all right, let's isolate Kaiser from the next week. So then, all right, who is it? Who is it that's worried about next week? Well, if it isn't Kaiser, then does it really fucking matter much next week? You see? So then
Yes, got it.
suddenly you see, by seeing that it's not Kaiser, a lot of weight drop out of next week. You see? You've just been shown the distribution. The weight isn't coming to you from worrying about next week. The weight of worrying about next week is given to it by the idea of Kaiser. Yeah? I at least get could you imagine if you were the factory distributing the shit. You thought you were the one that was buying the shit. Yeah? I mean, it's weird that it would be that off. Maybe you've realized, hey, I'm the one who's fucking delivering the shit. If I'm not that, then I'll have no interest in buying the shit. Yeah? But once Kaiser is sold, he's got interest in, yes, next week. Yes, you see? It's not next week, it's Kaiser. Yeah. So let's ask. I'm not saying who is it, who's going to be in next week. I don't care. I'm just asking who's Kaiser. Yeah, because I know that's where the weight's coming from. It's not coming from next week onto Kaiser. It's coming like it looks like that. But if you take Kaiser out, then you realize it was Kaiser giving it the meaning.
All
There you go.
right. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, listen. Let's say you're going the wrong way. You've been going the wrong way for 50 years. That thing that's going for a long way, that which we're not, is invested in it being the right way. It's been going at 60 years. It's not going to be open to hearing the real solution, which is, hey, you're going the wrong way. It isn't. It's like the old pooper scooper story I used to tell, you know? The person who thinks they've learned how to manage picking up shit in such a fucking efficient way, he's like, is the solution to the problem, where the real solution is get rid of the dog that's doing all the shitting. But now that your whole identity is escaping the shit, you need the shit. It's that gives you the shit's giving the goal to your life. And I'm fucking gonna die for it. I've been right this whole time. Just get rid of the dog. Unfortunately, the dog is seen as Kaiser. So Kaiser wants to look for any other fucking thing. Yeah. Hey, I'm sorry for the cursing today. I don't know what happened. I don't know. I went back to my old roots. Yes, all right, yeah. Let's go to Sunny. Sunny,
Hey, Paul, thank you. Thank you. It's been monumental, really, the last 5 weeks or so. There's been a shift, and there's this seeing through this. Anyway, it's been really helpful. The question I wanted to ask you was, you mentioned Ramana, and I know I've done some reading on Ramana in the prior, and then there's a mention of Brahman, and then the Atman. I was just thinking if it's and then there's a manifesting principle. If it's correlated to the analogy used in Course in Miracles, there's God, Father, and the Son
yeah,
is the Jesus mind, and then the Holy Spirit. Is that so? The Holy Spirit would be Atman, Brahman would be the God, and then manifesting principle would be the Jesus mind. Like I think in the Kashmiri Shaivism, maybe it's laid out a little bit more clearly. That's the other non-dual system in India that's pretty famous as well, right? And there they have the Shiva, and Shiva is the Brahman or the God, and
yeah,
then the Shakti, which is the two halves of the same coin, yin yang, and the
yeah,
Shakti is the manifesting principle, the creative energy, and then
yeah.
the Atman is the localized consciousness. Is that similar to what you
It would
discussed?
be similar in a way if, but in the idea of the Holy Spirit is that it's not in a way seen as the soul. It's seen as a living, a dis, a living view, so to speak. Yeah, distinctly different than the mental manufactured view. Yeah. So let's say you would be seeing everything not from self-centeredness but centeredness. Yeah. Yeah. And so when you received, like the GPS, when you received its impulses, they would produce different effects on your traveling. Yeah. You would grow in assurance. You'd be open to the possibility of grace being, as a always available juice. You know what I mean? So I don't know if it captures it the way, because I don't really haven't studied that other stuff. To me, it's just it provokes a sense feltness from my years in recovery. The higher power sounds very familiar to what they imply the Holy Spirit is. Yeah. So basically, instead of having the brain interpret everything, some other aspect of what we are interprets things. Yeah.
And is that some other aspect, the Holy Spirit, is that localized or apparently localized through
It,
which
it,
this
it's
seeing happens?
apparently localized, but I wouldn't say it's localized. But coming from the narrative of the action figure, which is a localizing narrative, yeah, it feels like it's coming through me. Yeah,
Okay, thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thanks, Sunny. Anybody else want to raise their hand? Well, I'm going to share something about how things can seem different,
I
be seen
mean,
differently.
I'll promise to never speak again if I can ask some more questions.
All right,
I'll
James.
promise to not
More
speak
than
for the
Mike.
rest of the month.
We're
Oh,
gonna
did
hold
I?
it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
I
heard.
can't. I'm all jittery. I can't hear.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
All right, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah.
James
Uh,
missed it.
I'd seen this good movie with Jennifer Aniston where she,
A
um,
good movie with Jennifer Aniston.
yeah, I like her. What are you
That
familiar with
sounds
her?
like wow. All
Anyway,
right.
I mean, it was a nice average movie. It was just a good movie.
Oh,
And she was kind of suicidal, and like she had and it was um, triggered by somebody else who did commit suicide, and she committed suicide by jumping off one of the high overpasses in LA onto the freeway below. And so I was walking to the park here a couple of days ago, and I used to have a real habit of like, oh, good, I get to die someday, like that. And as I got older, good, life's getting shorter, right? So I had that real habit in my mind, and so luckily that very rarely shows up. But it happened the other day, about to cross Fulton Street. I get kind of tiredness that I would have had given the meaning to it of like for me, whatever, right? So not even a big deal. And so it was just interesting to think how. So I thought about that movie, and I thought about how I could jump in front of this curve here, and where cars can't see, and get hit. And then the start of the train of like, how bad am I? Because you cause this wreck, and everybody else would get really hurt, and how selfish is that? But the instant flip about like wondering about somebody in a car driving by that might be suicidal, like just an instant thought about, and not in the prescription that I should be thinking about other people as a skillful means, like I should be good and think about other people first like that. It was just the interesting contrast of other people could be thinking about suicide that were passing by me. So just that different meaning being given about how I don't have to think about this imagined body being suicidal, but that just like the movie, it's possible to think as a possibility that there's other people. And not even just about suicide, but just like, hey, you could, like in a movie, you can wonder about every life story that's passing you by, right? And as a body in a car. And just that quick contrast between the two was just a gift, I guess, right? Because instead of having to live with, that Mike that always had suicidal thoughts, it was just kind of funny to see like, oh, look, Mike could even have a thought about the 180-degree turn of wondering about these people going by in their cars. Not as a skillful means, just as a as an interesting, completely different. So
I think I have to talk to you later, Mike, after the meeting.
do.
Yeah. No, I'm joking with you.
Got him, Paul. I'll take care of him.
I have homicidal thoughts every time on these Zooms. And I think, do the other people in these squares have homicidal thoughts? And I feel better.
Bill,
But I know there's a few of us have homicidal thoughts about one square. Nothing. Sorry, folks. Yeah. That was thanks, Mike. Yeah.
Patricia.
No,
Patricia.
I just want to say, I don't know why I feel moved to say, but I drive the most reliable car, and it's a 30-year-old Toyota. It's
Yeah.
nice. And I just also want to say, Paul, I had a really great week because, I kind of walk around with a mental to-do list, but this big item on my to-do list got crossed off thanks to you last week. Because the item on my to-do list is get enlightened. And you said, Pat, you're never going to get enlightened. And you know what? That hit me. I'm like, wow, that's really a relief that I don't have to do a whole bunch of stuff to get it. So that was great. And then what I wanted to ask you about today is like, so in the night dreaming state, I think I can say we move in the night, we wake up, and I wake up and I'm like, oh wow, I was dreaming. So I'm kind of coming out of the night dream and I'm like, wow, is that ever weird? I was dreaming about this strange thing. And then I just roll over and I go back into my night dream. So I feel like this might be universal too, that through our daydream, that we kind of shift out periodically for these little moments, and then we go back. Because the other day, I just walked over to this window right beside me, and I don't know, I just looked out the window and I was like, wow, I don't even remember planting flowers, but it was this really beautiful, I think they're like seeds that blew from my neighbors, and just really beautiful colored flowers there. And I was just like, so it was this moment. It was like a timeless moment. I wasn't aware of Pat viewing the flowers. Pat wasn't judging. You know, are there weeds there? What are those flowers called? It was just, there was no, like you said, the mental state judges the mental state. You know, all of the stuff that the mental state narrates. There was no narration, there was no judgment. It was just like, just whoa, look at the colors. So I kind of feel like we all have that. Thank God, I believe, thank God we all have that through the day where the mental state, for some reason, is not engaging. And we just have these like little beautiful moments where there's just conscious contact and no narration, no sense of self, no judgment. It's kind of, it's just great, right? Like, do you think that happens to us? Like, I kind of feel like if that didn't happen to us, we'd all be fucking crazy. But thank God we have these little glimpses through the day of like waking up out of the dream. Then we go back into the dream, like, what should Pat be doing? Blah, blah, blah. But like, what do you think about that?
Well, it isn't a mental state ceases. There's a loss of interest in it. In other words, there's a loss of interest in the mental state. The mental state is still mechanically doing its thing, but there's a loss of interest in it. You're somewhere else, so to speak. And then by those samples, you can really see the slavery towards the mental state. Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, of course, there's tons of free samples.
Yeah.
Yeah, all day. How could they not be?
Yeah.
It's like a fabric being pulled over our eyes. If it's got you moving really, really fast, you can't see through it. But if you stop, there's lots of holes in the fabric.
Right.
It's not like a tightly knit, it's very, very loose. When it's moving or you're moving really fast, it seems solid. But when there's a slowing up, you see a lot of holes. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah. I'm talking about the mental state speed. Yeah. So the mental state is agitated. It's moving, moving, moving. And then there's something we call time as a construct, that it sort of moves along with that. It speeds up, slows up. And yet what we are isn't caught by that movement. Yes? Our interest and attention can be pulled off of that movement and stop, and then you see through the movement. It's sort of like if you look like a helicopter, it has those blades, yeah? And then when you look, and it's not moving, you can see like 3 or 4 distinct blades with a lot of space in between them. When they're moving very, very fast, it looks like a solid fucking thing, yeah? So this whole idea of seeking constantly is a sense of, it's like the herd is being moved constantly, yeah? Looking, looking, looking. And so a lot of shit gets taken for granted by that movement. If you stop, a lot of stuff comes under questioning, so to speak. Yeah, yeah. And it's like, and you are stopped. Yeah, you have that quality. You're not of movement. You're not of agitation. You may be in agitation and out of agitation and in agitation, and the underlying is agitation, but you're not of agitation. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah,
I
thank you, Paul.
Yes. Now, Lebowski, you made a promise, so all right, this is your last question. For a month, I said, month? 6 months?
I was bargaining. I was going to say the rest of the month, but we're sort of
Yes, for the month. It's only a
towards the
day.
end anyway, so I was
No,
going to try
no,
to like pull
no,
a
no,
scam
no,
on you.
no, no. Give me another hand. Come
All
back with
right.
a better
All right.
offer. The end of the
It's
month.
just
It's
you're all
the
into the course
23rd
now.
already.
24th.
The 24th.
Okay. A month. A month. I'll give you a month.
All right, go ahead.
You know, in the course it says you're way too lenient of your wandering thoughts, and it that's sort of like, and and I liked what you said. You know, the Holy Spirit says, like, I'm connected to a place of timelessness, but you think you're stuck in time, so I'm going to use time to help you get out of time.
Yeah.
And one of the lessons I was on, since I'm stuck here at the house, I decided to try to start paying a little bit more attention to it, and it suggested I stop and give at least 5 minutes every hour of the waking day, which I found almost impossible to do. And it seems like, as much as, you know, guys like you and others are, I'm not saying dismissive, but like, all the 13 hours of sitting didn't really get me to where I am now. It seems like it says in the course, we're way too dismissive of our wandering thoughts. You know, we have to be kind of vigilant for a while, and 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 then maybe, you know, once we can get enough of the neurosis out of the way, it comes in on its own. But that's all I wanted to see, if you wanted to riff on a little bit or
Well,
not. You got a month off now anyway, so
yeah, I forgot what you asked me. I
well, it
mean, I
just,
think
like,
you're the lenient of you're much too dismissive or the much too lenient with the thoughts.
yeah, you're much too lenient with your wandering thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe because you hold them as yours. Yeah, yeah. So if you hold wandering thoughts as yours, then you think you can wander. Yeah. So like thoughts come and go, you believe you come and go. So you take on the quality of what you're lending to thoughts. Yeah.
That's why it gives you think you're this, you need to see that you're that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you think you're weak, but you're strong.
I
You
don't
think you're
even care
limited,
about
but you're
this. I
unlimited.
think you just need to see you're not that. See, I would just start with recognizing the activities, not disclaiming anything, just recognize the activity, and then you'll get a sense of what you are and then the appearance of what you're not. You'll be there before the appearance of what you're not is set. You'll be there watching the head conjuring up the appearance of what you're not. You will. And I mean, basically, you saw a lot at that time, at that timeless time. I mean, just lend it to that and then see what happens. Yeah. I find it's much more fun to find out about what you are than to know about what you are. I do. Yeah. So, I sought knowledge until a day where I don't seek any knowledge concerning this topic. I don't think I've sought knowledge concerning this topic in years and years and years. Yeah. Because I realized I much rather just find out. Yeah. Than know. Yeah. Yeah. So. I don't know if
Well,
that
that's why I
answers
keep
the
showing up.
question. I don't really like that. I don't like that. The sound of that lesson. You're too lenient. I got a lot of you and something else in there. So I'm not a
Well,
real
that's why
believer.
I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, I think the Course in Miracles, in a lot of ways, is presented dualistically, but it's the point of it is non-dualistic. Yeah. So yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for your patience, and I really apologize if I was rude to Mike. I was having audio difficulties. I'm going to blame it
No,
on the
you
audio.
are. You can ask questions anytime, bro. I'm not going to hold you to your
Thanks, man. I
vow.
appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. But
I'm going to try to stick to it anyway, and because I'm a humble guy.
don't do that, James. We need you. What would this be like without you, James?
Okay.
I'd hate to think about it.
Hey, I'm going to be here, man.
I have
If-
thought about it, but I hate myself for it.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't leave me in the waiting room.
No. No.
All right, bye.
All right, Mike.
Thanks, James. Anybody else want to raise their hand?
See, let me say hello to some people here, too. We got Jeff, my friend Jeff. You doing all right, Jeff, down there? Good. We got some scuba divers and somebody with Sky, Keith. I think that's our friend Keith. Gary, you're looking good. Yeah. Being in the corner does you well. Yeah. Brahmi, have you swum in the Ganges for me? Have you swum in the Ganges for me?
That same afternoon, I went and I had at least 9 dips. I
Oh,
counted 9.
fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.
It was great. It was nice and cool, and it's hot as heck here right now. So I'll go again today for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes. I've always wanted to swim in the Ganges, so now I've done
See
it.
that? Now you've
Thank
done it.
Fantastic.
Surely.
Hey, Sonny. See you, Sonny. Alan. Hey, Alan. It's always nice to see you. Thanks for showing up again. James, Lebowski, Brown. Yes. We got Dennis. Nice to see you, Dennis. Randy. Randy is in someone's kitchen, I guess. Nice to see you, Randy. Yeah. Kaiser. Deepak. Deepak. Very nice to see you. Patricia. Let's let the healing continue, right? Unabated. Carl. Nice to see you, Carl. Linda Stevenson. George. The Void. The Living Void. Johans. Nice to see you, Johans. Nick and Mike. Nick's got a nice hat there.
Thank you. I got it
Yeah.
from a crazy guy.
Yeah. Kerry. Nice to see you, Kerry. Mary, you're in great hands, Mary. Please, let's make a pact between ourselves. Let's not take ourselves too seriously. Great. All right. Let's see who else. That's about it. Wow. They've all escaped today. Oh, Susanna, my wonderful friend, and Yariv, and Sue Kempton, and Nancy, and Mike, all those people. Thanks so much for coming. And if you get sick and tired of coming, let me know, and we'll try to do something else. All right. Hey, thanks, Mike. Thank you. And
I'll stop showing up
somebody
once I
got a
get well.
shirt. Good. Stacy L got a shirt. Fantastic. Hey, thanks everybody, and we'll be here Saturday. And I hope whatever. It's just a pleasure to be with all of you. And
Hey, Paul, I wanted to comment on something.
yes,
On your background with that Buddha,
yeah.
the way it's a special session today because every once in a while you disappear and merge with the Buddha. And
Oh,
it's
that's good. Yeah. I like it. I know it was another one I wanted, but it wouldn't let me go to the other picture. We're trying to find a new logo for the new website, Zen Bitch Slap. So this was one of the ideas. See, hold on. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a little kid on the raft. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's beautiful. So we're gonna have some T-shirts like this too, I think, if we can. Hey, thanks everybody. That's all. Yes.
thank you, Paul.
All right. See you, Nick. See you, Mike.
Thank you, Paul.
Yes, thank you, Suzanne.
Paul.
Take it
Thanks,
easy.
Mike.
Take care, Paul.
Bye-bye.
Say hi to Amelia.
Keith. Yeah, Brahmi.
Thanks,
again.
Paul.
Thank you for this
Thanks a lot
opportunity.
for all y'all's patience.
See you guys. See you.
Thanks, Paul.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Paul.
Bye.
Normally I'm on my computer and I can see to whom all I'm making an ass before myself, but now I can only see about 4 or 5 people.
How come you're not on your computer?
Because this way I can just sort of turn it off and go to bed. It's better than falling asleep in the chair or coming over here and not being engaged enough to stay awake.
Mm.
I've been going around the doing the kind of 2 sleeping, 2 working periods a day thing though,